Congressman Ted Lieu is a Democrat on the Foreign Affairs and Judiciary Committees. He also spent part of this past weekend at Los Angeles International Airport, joining the protest of President Trump's travel bans that happened there. Congressman, describe the scene at LAX.
It was very energetic, it was peaceful, and it showed what a real populist movement is. And what you've seen with the Women's March, along with these organic protests across the country at various airports and various cities, you're seeing a very large reaction to President Trump. And there's a law in physics that I like, that I believe also applies to politics, which is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And now you're seeing the majority of Americans come out and oppose the Donald Trump unconstitutional orders and actions.
Why do you oppose it?
Well, because it is a religious test. And in America, we don't have a religious test. But let me first of all say that having served on active duty in the United States Air Force, when it comes to terrorism, we need to hunt down terrorists and kill them. But we're also taught in the military that to defeat our enemy, we need to know our enemy. And our enemies are terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They are not women, children, and senior citizens fleeing those groups. And that's what the facts have shown. The number of refugees from these 7 countries that Trump has banned, do you know how many of them engaged in terrorist attacks on U.S. soil that killed anybody? 0. The conservative Cato Institute estimated that of all foreigners and refugees, your chances of being killed by a foreigner in America is 1 in 3.6 million. Chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 700,000. So this is just a factually, completely alternative fact-based reality that the president lives in.
You call this a religious test on Twitter. When referring to this, you use the hashtag Muslim ban. President Trump, with a statement late Sunday, saying that the 7 countries named in this executive order are the same countries previously identified by the Obama administration as sources of terror. And to be clear, this is not a Muslim ban, as the media is falsely reporting. This is not about religion. This is about terror and keeping our country safe. So why continue to use the Muslim ban hashtag?
The president is lying. This is a Muslim ban. What it says for these majority Muslim countries is we're going to ban people from coming into the United States. We're then going to give priority to basically Christians. That's basically a Muslim ban. You can call it whatever you want. Rudy Giuliani, at least, was truthful. He went on TV and said, yep, the president told me to write a Muslim ban that we thought could pass muster with the courts. And it didn't, right? 3 courts came down and actually had to modify large parts of it because it was such a poorly written executive order.
The president has made comparisons to what former President Obama did back in 2011 concerning a 6-month slowdown for refugees from Iraq. Talk about those comparisons.
Sure. And you said it yourself. It was not a ban, right? They did more vetting. It was not a ban, and that's the difference. What this executive order does is it flat out just bans these immigrants from these 7 countries, if you just read the executive order. That's the major difference. So I could support additional vetting of all sorts of different people. I mean, let's say you were scared because of the Paris attacks that killed a lot of people in Paris, France. You don't want that to happen here. You know who you would vet? French and Belgian citizens, because those are the folks that committed those attacks. And that's what's so absurd about this order. It doesn't make us any safer. But the message, right, it sends to Iraqis, for example, is, wow, America really doesn't like us. And now they want us to help U.S. soldiers.
We've had callers call in to say, why not just take a time out like the president wants to do, 3 to 4 months to reassess our immigration system, to reassess the refugee system. Why are you so against just taking a time out to try to find if we can't do this in a better way?
Because there is not a problem with a refugee killing U.S. persons in terrorist attacks. That number is 0, right? And the chances of dying from a foreigner killing you in America is so low. You have higher chances of being struck by lightning. So if we're going to spend federal resources on this extreme vetting, first of all, let's not do it in a discriminatory manner, but let's spend it on things that actually make us safer. This order is making us less safe. It's putting U.S. deployed personnel at increased risk because now you got Iraqis and other people thinking America doesn't like us. And then you got the president saying, we want to take your oil. I mean, what does that tell, right? The Iraqis are supposed to be helping U.S. soldiers defeat ISIS in Iraq. It's very troubling for deployed military personnel. And that's why the U.S. State Department, over 100 people, sent a dissent memo to the President of the United States saying, do not do this. This makes our national security weaker.
Congressman Ted Lieu is on the Foreign Affairs Committee, he's on the Judiciary Committee, and he's with us for about the next half hour taking your questions and comments. Phone lines are open. Democrats 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, Independents 202-748-8002, and we'll start on the line for Democrats in Dayton, Ohio. Mason's up first. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for taking my call. Listen, I can't agree more with what was just said. My overall problem with the Muslim ban, and that's really what it is, because when Trump was asked directly about it, if Christians were going to have a priority and as far as bringing Christian refugees in, Trump said absolutely. So we're preferencing one religion over another and then banning all from Muslim countries. My problem is the basis for this is based on alternative facts, a.k.a. lies. There has not been a problem with the extreme vetting we're already doing. It's a 2-year process. And the fact that people with green cards and visas got turned away and sent back, putting their lives in danger and leaving them with nothing is a problem. That changes the perception of us in the world. And right now, our president, who's conducting unconstitutional executive actions, is creating a backlash worldwide, where we are even facing debate in the UK for banning Trump's visit because of what's perceived as a Muslim ban. We can't build relationships. We can't beat ISIS with a coalition of Middle Eastern people and Muslim individuals if we're telling them, yes, we want you to help us, but you're not welcome in our country. So there's just no need to put this into effect, and it's caused a self-inflicted crisis.
Well, thank you so much for that question. Let me first say I love Dayton, Ohio. I did my field training at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base when I was in the military. It's a great place to be. Thank you for your question. I agree with you. You did say something about alternative facts, and let me talk about that, because I do believe that America, we have a problem. We have a president that lies pathologically. And not only does he lie, he sends out his staff to also lie on his behalf on issues small and large. On inauguration sites, for example, he simply had a smaller inauguration than Presidents Obama, Carter, and Reagan. Those are the facts. It's such a silly thing to lie about. But he also lies about big things. Things like saying that, oh, it could have been other countries that hacked us and not Russia. Well, it was Russia. I had the classified intelligence report. I read it. I went through briefings. And I can tell you the president's lying to you when he says that Russia did not engage in these cyber attacks to hurt Secretary Clinton and to help him. He's just lying. And the problem is our republic can withstand policy disagreements. If Republicans want to dismantle the Affordable Care Act without a plan, we can argue about that. We can disagree about that. We can disagree about tax policy. But we cannot have an American president that lies pathologically and then tries to stifle dissent among federal employees when he attacks the free press. Now we're on the road to authoritarianism, and that is a problem. That's why I believe that Donald Trump is a danger to the republic, and he's got to be stopped. And in 22 months, voters across America get to vote again for Congress, and they can stop his extreme agenda by helping Democrats take back the House of Representatives.
China Lake, California is next. Mike is a Republican. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for your show. I think the ban is excellent. It's long overdue. It's brilliant. It's so simple. It's brilliant. It should be enforced and strengthened. And I think if there is a ban at all, it should be Ted Lieu. It should be banned from the East Coast. He should not be able to leave the East Coast of San Francisco. He's very picayune on his argument, and they will not win anything again, probably ever. The liberals are on their way out. Thank you very much for your excellent show.
Do you want to respond?
Sure. Thank you, Mike, for your question. You know what's amazing and wonderful about American democracy? The voters in my district get to make that decision. You do not. And as long as the voters in my district bring me back, I will speak truth to power. I will talk about the Constitution. When the president violates it, I will call him out on it. And I do want to commend Sally Yates yesterday for going on record and saying that she's following the Constitution of the United States and not enforcing the ban. We saw that President Trump fired her because she was following the Constitution. And again, that goes to stifling dissent. It is on the road to authoritarianism. And I encourage you, by the way, if you think this ban is so excellent, to read it, because it talks about 9/11, and then it doesn't ban the country of Saudi Arabia, anyone from there. Why is that? Is it because Donald Trump has business interests in Saudi Arabia? Well, we don't really know, because he won't release his tax returns. So if you release his tax returns, then you don't have large swaths of American public questioning his integrity, questioning why is he making these bizarre decisions, talking about 9/11, and then not focusing on the people that actually did it, who came from Saudi Arabia, and then focusing on countries like Yemen. I mean, what the heck is that ban all about?
Would you be more comfortable if Saudi Arabia was included on this list, and Pakistan, another one of those countries that has been cited as a place where people have come from and have been arrested for attempts or for attempted acts against the United States?
It would make more rational sense. It would still be unconstitutional, so I would still oppose it.
Congressman Ted Lieu is our guest. He's in his second term, just recently elected to a second term from the 33rd District of California. Also serves as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserves. Taking your questions and comments for about the next 15 minutes. Rowan is in Salem, New Hampshire. Line for Independence. Rowan, good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling in regards, I've been a Democrat all my life. I'm 65 years old, and I got diabetes. And right now, I have to pay like $260-something for a vial of insulin because of Obamacare, okay? Not only that, we got to enforce the law on immigration. It's out of hand. Nobody wanted to do it. This guy wants to enforce the law, and everybody's against him. And another thing, all these politicians, the Democrats, the Republicans, they need term limits, 2 years, 4 years, and then get somebody else in there. Don't spend the next 20 years in Congress or Senate because it's not right. You got to get new blood in there. You guys got the power, and that's all you need is the power. But you're always cutting Medicaid to these poor people. You got to worry about the people in the United States. You're going to bring more and more people in. We're a welfare country. Everybody's on welfare. You know what I mean? Nobody's working because there's no jobs because the Clinton sold us down the tubes when he passed NAFTA. And you guys can't see that.
Congressman.
Thank you for your question. First of all, on Obamacare, I am also on it, and I would love to help make it better. And I want to let you know that if there is a better plan that comes out, then I will support it. But right now, there is no better plan. So I oppose repealing it because if you repeal it without a plan, then your insulin costs are going to go up even higher than they are now. In addition, when we talk about immigration, I think we just need to, again, have some facts. There has been net negative migration from Mexico. That means more people who are Mexican leave the United States than enter. So this big border wall that Donald Trump wants to build is a huge federal boondoggle because it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. People are losing jobs largely due to automation, right? The people in these factories that build cars, for example, a lot less people now building cars because you've got robots. Sort of hard, right, for a politician to go out and attack robots. But that's what's happening. You've got automation taking away these jobs. Amazon in 2013 had 1,000 robots. 2016, they had 45,000 robots. Not only did they displace a lot of jobs, these robots were also more efficient than human beings. So if you really want to solve the problem, and it's got to be a long-term solution, I would advocate we teach every person, whether you're in a school district in Cleveland or in Detroit or in San Francisco, you teach them computer science or robotics or some kind of engineering, and then we retrain adults to skills that industry actually needs. That's how we bring jobs back. Building a border wall, having a Muslim ban is not going to bring back a single job. It's actually going to hurt our economy.
Bradenton, Florida is next. Barney is an independent. Barney, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Hey, Mr. Lieu, man, I applaud you. You said the right thing. And this Muslim ban ain't nothing but a red herring. We haven't been attacked by none of them countries. And they fighting for us and try to protect us. And we got people sitting here. The population, Trump voters need to go back to the History Channel and watch how Hitler control the masses. He controlled the masses by discriminating against the Jews. This is the same playbook that Hitler used. So, America, we need to wake up. And, Mr. Lieu, you hit the nail on the head.
Congressman Lieu, how do you feel about Nazi comparisons?
I do believe their Nazi comparisons are grossly over-exaggerated, but it is really troubling, though, that on Holocaust Remembrance Day, their White House issues an entire statement without referencing Jews. There is a strain of anti-Semitism among some of President Trump's advisors, and that is deeply troubling to me. But there is something similar, not so much just Nazism, but if you look at authoritarian regimes, whether it's Russia or North Korea or other countries, they start with alternative facts, right? They start with trying to blur the distinction between truth and fiction. And that's what we cannot have. Our republic can stand a lot. We can withstand policy disagreements, disagreements on taxes, disagreements on social issues. We cannot tolerate an American president that lies pathologically and blurs the distinction between truth and fiction, and then attacks the press, and then tries to stifle dissent. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, you need to stand up to this, because this is a danger to the republic.
Doug is in Eaton, Indiana, a Democrat. Doug, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, thank you for taking my call. The main thing I want to make is, I think what's happening is this kind of a ban. I hate to say this, but I think Trump is trying to invite terrorism here, because it'll give him the chance to declare martial law, and then the republic is ended. Thank you for taking my call.
So thank you for your question. I'm not going to guess at whether that is a motive. I'm just going to take Rudy Giuliani at face value, who said that the president wanted to do a Muslim ban, and Rudy helped him write it in a way that he thought was legal. And now it turned out that large parts of it are actually illegal. And I'll just leave it stand at that this is an illegal order in many respects, and it actually harms U.S. national security.
Raymond is a Republican in Brook Park, Ohio. Raymond, good morning.
Good morning. I'm for the ban. It's not 5-year-olds that you're worried about. It's the 17 to 35-year-old males you're worried about. They won't fight for their own country. What the hell are they going to do here? They're going to do nothing but cause trouble. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And by the way, I love Brook Park, Ohio as well. I actually grew up near there as a child. I grew up in Parma, Ohio. In terms of your question, thank you for letting me highlight this fact. Under the vetting of the Obama administration, for example, of Syrian refugees, they were actually letting in women and children and senior citizens. Those are the priorities. Because of the reasons you stated, they were focused on women, children, and senior citizens. And you seem to agree with me that, yes, we probably should not be banning women, children, and senior citizens into this country who are refugees, right? We are a nation of immigrants. I'm an immigrant. The Statue of Liberty is our iconic brand. That's what makes America amazing. That's what's going to keep us going forward.
I want to ask you about an article in Breitbart recently. The headline, "Should Congressman Ted Lieu be court-martialed?" Right. And the story notes that you're a reserve officer in the Air Force, and it talks about Article 88 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which prohibits commissioned officers in or out of uniform from using contemptuous words against the president and other high officials. You've been somebody who's been very critical of this president on Twitter and your words and your speeches. The story notes that Ted Lieu's recent and ongoing statements about President Donald Trump go far beyond even strident political debate and explicitly claim that the commander-in-chief is in fact illegitimate. The article notes that Congressman Lieu seems to be campaigning for a court-martial. Your reaction?
Well, thank you for asking me that question. The article is factually wrong. The Uniform Code of Military Justice does not apply to reservists when they are not serving on duty. So when I'm not serving on duty, I'm a civilian just like anybody else. And it is absolutely right. I am saying a lot of things trying to warn the American people about our president because I believe he is a danger to the republic. But when I'm serving on active duty as a reservist, wearing my uniform, I don't say a single thing. I do my duty. I do what the Air Force tells me to do. When I'm off duty, when I'm a member of Congress, you're absolutely right. I do everything I can to show that this president is a danger.
If you went on active duty, is there any situation in which you would disobey an order?
Only if it was an unlawful order, but it's very hard to tell in most times if it's an unlawful order. So generally, you just obey the orders that come down.
Mechanicville, New York is next. David is an independent. David, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Hey, I just want to comment on the idea of the American soldier and the nation worrisomes of the situation that they find themselves across the borders. And, furthermore, these are our soldiers. These are our children. And the thing of it is, they are American. And they know that. Inside their hearts, they know that they are the children of America. So, furthermore, about our soldiers overseas and the fear that they have of whatever it may be, the situation, neither here nor there. They're American. They are deep-rooted American people with the belief of protecting our freedoms, our liberties, our justices. Furthermore, the ban of whatever it is, sir, in which you feel of feelings of yours with respect, sir. It's a 90 days. You warn people. 90 days is a warning.
Congressman?
Thank you for that question. I'm glad you mentioned U.S. soldiers. So let's talk about the deployed U.S. personnel overseas. Let's talk about Iraq. You have folks there that rely on Iraqi translators. There have been Iraqi translators that have put their lives on the line for the United States of America. And now this Muslim ban to Iraq sends a signal that we hate you. We don't like you. We don't want you over here. We want to separate you from your families if you have any families here in the United States. So that's a message that's being sent. And then you got the President of the United States saying that we should take the oil of Iraq, which, by the way, is a war crime. So now you have the United States president advocating for war crimes. And if you're an Iraqi translator or an Iraqi citizen or a member of the Iraqi government, how are you going to treat our U.S. personnel there now in Iraq? You've just increased risks to our U.S. soldiers. Think about what Donald Trump has done already. That is not acceptable. Talk to any veteran that served in Iraq. That's why you have articles talking about veterans going to help these Muslims who were detained at these airports because they realized the danger that just happened.
Speaking of deployed members of the military, the latest military casualty identified yesterday, a Navy SEAL identified as Chief Special Warfare Operator William Ryan Owens, 36, of Peoria, Illinois, was killed in a nighttime raid in war-torn Yemen. This reporting from the San Diego Tribune, several papers around the country carrying the information with the release of the name of that casualty.
I respect and honor the service members who have died for our country. And in this particular case, my thoughts and prayers are with the family. And again, having served in the U.S. military, I believe when it comes to terrorists, we should hunt them down and kill them. That is my belief. That is totally different as to whether we should do a Muslim ban that affects everybody and is a religious test, including on countries that have nothing to do with any of the terrorist attacks in the United States.
A few minutes left with Congressman Lieu. Ed is in Washington, D.C., a Democrat. Ed, good morning.
Good morning, C-SPAN. How you doing? The congressman is exactly correct, Congressman, and I congratulate you on that. And we cannot afford to turn our backs on our partners around the world. This ban against Muslims and all that, you're right that the president is a pathological liar. And the thing here is, in light of the 17 intelligence agencies in the United States who found this information on the hacking situation, that's fact. And the thing is, they cannot afford to have fake news, right? Fake information in our government. That endangers America. It does not make America safe. I'm a scientist, and I had pointed out the thing here is that our President Hillary Clinton did not campaign. She did not lose that election. That election was hacked away from her. The thing here is our people are endangered when we go against the facts. The fact is the scientific findings on the global warming and all these things in the nation. Being a scientist myself, retired from NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, I find that facts make the difference in our country. You will set our country backwards when we do this, and the thing is, you endanger our national security. And the right, Congressman, the thing is, we must point out to these people what you're saying, that, we cannot base our intelligence and our national security on lies. And we lose the partners around the world. And in a country, for example, Angela Merkel in Germany, she said, ich habe nicht den Daumen gedrückt. That means the German expression, she should hold her thumb that Hillary will win this election. But
Ed, I want Congressman Lieu to respond to one point that you bring up, is the reaction from around the world that you've seen in recent days.
Well, we've seen from the Women's March to these protests at airports that there is a massive populist movement, not just in the United States, but also around the world in opposition to the American president. And that's because the American president is taking actions that are based on bigotry, that are based on racism, right? He already caused the president of Mexico to cancel a meeting with America. Mexico is our neighbor, they're one of our allies. Our president has threatened trade wars with Mexico and with China. Keep in mind, when you threaten a trade war, and if it were to happen, it's the American consumer that ends up paying higher prices. Grover Norquist was on last night on television, and he said, if you impose tariffs on American companies, who pays for them? Americans do. So let's just keep in mind that our American president is taking all these actions that are not just harming America, but also really affecting international relations. And he's doing it sort of apparently very quickly without any vetting. That's why he's got to issue executive orders and then have the courts modify them. That's why he makes statements such as, let's put a 20% tariff on Mexican imports, then he takes that back. We really can't have American president act this way, and it's very disturbing. I
want you to respond to Sandy Beach on Twitter, who says, Congressman Lieu, I've looked, and I can't find anything in the Constitution that requires us to let any non-citizen unfettered entry into the U.S.
I agree with that. No one's talking about letting people having unfettered entry to the United States. That's why under the Obama administration, they had massive vetting, for example, of Syrian refugees. The LA Times described it as sort of winning the lottery for Syrian refugees, that they were able to even make it to the United States because of the amount of vetting. What we're talking about is having a ban, just a complete ban on people from 7 majority Muslim countries. And when you look at it, the refugees from those countries were involved in a total of 0 terrorist attacks that killed anybody on U.S. soil. So why didn't the president go ahead and include Saudi Arabia on that list? The attackers from 9/11 did not come from, for example, Yemen. It came from Saudi Arabia. And I think it's because the president has all these business interests in Saudi Arabia. But we're not quite sure because Trump refused to release his tax returns. He also, by the way, is in violation of Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, the Emoluments Clause, which says you can't have foreign conflicts of interest and accept foreign gifts and benefits. And again, he can be out of that predicament if he would simply release his tax returns and put his global holdings in blind trust. He refuses to do that as well.
Let's go to Harold in Florida, line for Republicans. Harold, good morning.
Yes, sir. Look, I've listened to the young man for quite a while now, and he's made one accusation after another. Look, I'm like most Americans. I want the president to have a broad view, not be attacked one little thing after another. I want him to protect us. And if he has to limit immigrants from 7 small countries for a short period of time, then I'm going to trust that he has more knowledge than I do, more information, and whatever he's doing has one heck of a reason. You know, we've cut immigration from many countries for long periods of time over our history, and it's always gone through and been legal. Now, one more thing. The young man based upon what he's said repeatedly during this interview, I don't care what his legal advice is. He's going to have one heck of a problem with JAG officers. This is just crazy that he thinks he can get away with calling the commander-in-chief one thing after another and that there's no repercussion. He is still the commander-in-chief, and this young man, even if he's not on active duty, he is saying these things. This is just crazy, and I will say, if you really think you're being a patriot and serving, you watch what you say, because you're destroying the chain of command in one thing.
Well, Congressman Ted Lieu, want to give you a chance to respond.
Sure. First of all, thank you for calling me a young man. I appreciate that. I'm getting some white in my hair now, but I'm glad you call me a young man. I am a JAG officer. I serve on active duty. I'm still in the reserves as a JAG officer. Right now, I'm a civilian. I'm a member of Congress. I'm not wearing my uniform. I'm not on active duty. So I'm just going to tell you, President Trump is a danger to the republic. His agenda needs to be stopped. He has illegitimacy problems. And I will say that day and night. But when I am on duty with the United States Air Force, I do not say that. I follow orders. The president is my commander-in-chief. If President Trump gave an order as commander-in-chief and it was lawful, I would absolutely follow it. But as a civilian, as a member of Congress, I am going to speak truth to power, and I'm going to highlight when President Trump takes unconstitutional and harmful actions to our country.
Congressman Ted Lieu, appreciate your time. Come again on the Washington Journal. We'll see you back.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll continue our conversation on the travel ban executive order with Pennsylvania Republican Lou Barletta. That's coming up in just a few minutes on the Washington Journal.